Welcome back to Big Gold Belt Media. It is I, Damien G. Follow me on my social medias down below with another review. This time, another martial arts film, which, in my opinion, was better than the last one I interviewed here on the show. I reviewed here. Go over to biggoldbelt.com to look at my review for Fist of the Condor. Not one of my favorites, but alas, this one stroked my interest. This one is directed and starred in by Donnie Yen. This one had me so enthralled that I didn't know Donnie Yen was the main star of this movie until the end. That's how good for me this movie was at keeping me captivated with the film itself. And that film is titled SAKRA, SAKRA, which is based on the novel, I think it's called Demi-Gods and Semi-Devils. It is an adaptation of that source material made into a martial arts film. And you know what? I kind of like my movies to not be based, to either be based in martial arts reality or martial arts fantasy, such as Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or the days of the Bruce Lee era of martial arts films, which kept everything more grounded. This is more of the Crouching Tiger. We're gliding along the trees, along the countryside with this beautiful scenery that encases you in something where you get lost in everything of it. But that's that. We'll get to that part. But for me, this movie caught my attention within the first 2 minutes. Why? Because like every one of these movies, there seems to be an abandoned child, an abandoned baby that gets brought to the doorstep of two well-meaning and loving strangers looking at you, Star Wars, and every other movie which leaves an abandoned baby in the care of other family members. Then we get a fast forward because the baby's all cute. Ooh, cute baby. Moving on. Then we get a fast forward to this boy as a preteen teenager, which is able to apparently lift 300 pounds straight out of an MCU film. Like I said, we're gonna veer more toward the unrealistic but fantastical elements of martial arts films, and we already have a preteen at lifting 300 pounds off the ground. I can't really tell you. It just was fun to watch in those moments. 5 minutes in, I yell out, WTF. Because the fight scenes in the first 5 minutes are very Ip Man-esque if you crank it up to about 30. The cinematography, granted, the budget was probably a lot bigger than Fist of the Condor had, but I gotta say, this budget was well spent on graphics, fight scenes, cinematography, music. It was well spent. There's multiple movements in this movie during the fight scenes and during these, I want to say, artistic acrobatic fight scenes where it seems as if every single character can leap tall buildings in a single bound, or can run across treetops, or can float up a mountain. And yet we're acting as if this is normal in this universe. So we, again, are steering into the MCU quadrant of the fantastical martial arts, which in reality, if we go back to Shang-Chi, is a little bit more grounded in reality, save for the 10 rings portion of it all, than this movie actually was. What SAKRA tends to do is on a negative side. I'll give it that. They lean a little too much on the fantastical. And then when it slows down, because the number one issue I had with this movie is pacing. The pacing of this movie was a little disjointed, where action, 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 story, action, action, story, action, story, and so on and so forth. And I felt that's how this was played, and it almost lost me for a couple of moments there. In the first 15 minutes, there was about 3 fight scenes. We didn't get to the opening credits until about 12 minutes into the actual movie. We had an opening montage that led us to the opening credits about 12 to 15 minutes into the movie, which for me is something I didn't even realize until I saw the opening credits, to which I yell out, holy crap, we just got to the credits. And then in the first 5 minutes after that, we have the main character, Xiao Feng, stabbing himself in the side 4 times and no selling it. And for all you non-wrestling fans out there, no selling means to basically not even flinch. So this man is a Kaiten. which in the story as we go along, it is deemed that these people are less than in the realm where we're based out of here. I believe in the provinces of China in, I believe, the 1500s. Don't quote me on that, but I don't have Wikipedia up right now to tell me that. So for the fact that he's able to no sell, stabbing himself 4 times to prove his loyalty is one thing. And then the rest of this movie has a really interesting way of ingratiating you to these characters, or at least to this main character. Because for a good chunk of the movie, he's blamed for a lot of things he didn't do, or apparently allegedly didn't do, or he's being accused of. So a lot of wrong place, wrong time, shenanigans ensues. I'm not going to spoil too much of this movie. Just know it turns from martial arts movie to psychological thriller to a run and chase type of movie where you're trying to chase down the criminal to a prototypical Kill Billion 1 against 84 fight scene, which, look, in my world, I would like them to be a little bit more realistic, like The Raid or The Raid 2, where even though it's a little far-fetched, the hero still catches them hands. In this one, Donnie Yen's character caught some hands, but not enough, in my opinion, that he deserved to catch. Because you'll see when you watch the fighting in this movie, because it's all over the place. It's fantastical. It's what it's supposed to be. But what I think gets lost in this movie, and I can pretty much guess that this is what Donnie Yen and the other producers were going for, was to engulf you into the cinematography, was to bring you into the actual realm of this movie and to get you lost in the scenery and get you lost in the culture, which a lot of it happened, which I found myself ingratiated. For a lot of people out there, I am also part Asian, so I did have an affinity for wanting to ingratiate as many people as possible to this film. Even if you are not of Asian descent, you can really get to enjoy maybe not so much the story, but the way the story is told, almost in folklorian methodology that a lot of writers would like to do back in the day of yesteryear. And I'm pontificating on how I'm going to properly convey the rest of this movie. Number one, the main character is a very, very tormented man that wants to get to the bottom of a lot of things. Who he is, self-discovery, where did he come from, because he realizes he's an adopted child, who his family actually is, who his actual culture is, what turns to be the actual enemies of this movie, which there's a few people in this movie that I knew off the bat, I couldn't trust you. I knew it. My radar went off. My New York City radar went off and said, I can't trust this person. And there's a handful of them. I'm thinking, yeah, you got something going on right there. So, and you'll see when you watch this movie, and I suggest everybody watches it, just so if you like martial arts with a little bit of mystery, and you like it with a little bit of just angst of what's going to happen next, in most parts, you'll enjoy it. The fight scenes are great. The story, as I said, is a little plotting, just a little, in various parts, in the middle specifically. And then we get what seems to be two halves of the movie. The first half is the main character trying to prove, I don't want to say his innocence, but trying to prove who he is to everybody in this movie, how he's this legitimate person, and everybody thinks he's just something else. You know, that he's not who he portrays himself to be. So Xiaofeng is a tormented man. And then in the second half of the movie, it's a revenge mission. It is, oh yeah, y'all messed around, y'all about to find out. And the way that Donnie Yen portrays this character, and again, let me just remind you, I didn't realize this was Donnie Yen before the end of the movie. I thought this was a completely young, youthful actor that I've never heard of, and thinking, that dude's got talent. Turns out it's Donnie Yen. But it starts off as, in multiple parts, a self-discovery movie, and then it becomes a romance movie, and then it becomes a revenge flick. And there are so many different layers here. There is, as I said, a love affair, assassins, rich noblemen trying to get revenge, people trying to just fall into mob mentality and kill Donnie Yen's main character. There's a lot going on, multiple plot points intersecting, which is what I mean about a little discombobulated with the plot. And just maybe like this review, this movie just had me all in my druthers. As this movie kept going on, I kept thinking, okay, where are we going with this? And then we get to the end of the movie, and it feels almost as if it was an after-school special where you learned something today, kids. Like this was He-Man or one of those G.I. Joe knowing is half the battle moments once you get to the end of this movie where you're taught a lesson. There is a lot of death, a lot of emotional death in this movie, to go along with the emotional depth in this movie. Some of the pull your heartstrings moments do happen. There are a couple of moments later in the film where I scream out WTF again because I didn't see a couple of things coming. And the fact that those things happened threw me for a little bit of a loop. I'll give you one quick spoiler. Our main character doesn't die. He dodges some stuff, but he doesn't die because this is being billed as a part one of a larger story arc. And like I said, this is based upon the novel called Demi-Gods and Semi-Devils. So this is a continuous thing. When we get to the end, there's a couple of end credit scenes. I want to say he makes peace with who he is. There's a few mystery people that aren't really tied up until the end of the movie. And then when you get to the end credit scenes, you realize, oh, that's where this person went. And then when you find out who this person is, you're thinking, oh, really? When it's spoiled at the end, let's just say Donnie Yen didn't want to pay for the extra actors. Let's just put it that way. When you see the ending of this movie, and all I gotta say is I can't wait for the next part if there's going to be a next part. So to summarize the TLDR of this, things I liked: the fight scenes, very fantastical, very Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, mixed with a lot of beautiful scenery, cinematography, the music, the soundtrack, all the love in the world. Because if you know me, you know how much I love a good movie soundtrack, especially a martial arts movie soundtrack, because they can hit you in the feels even when you don't expect it. So those are things I really love. The performances, albeit a tad over the top, had some really good performances. So much so, as I said earlier in this review, didn't even know that Xiaofeng was Donnie Yen until the end of the movie because I went in blind watching SAKRA. The things I didn't really enjoy was the uneven plot. I'll just say it that much. The pacing was a little off. It was a little too imbalanced. It jumped around a little bit. And I think they tried to shoehorn too many after-school specials into this movie when you went from self-discovery journey to romance novel to I'm a whoop your ass revenge, sort of like the Beatrix Kiddo in Kill Bill. You know, you try to put all that in a 2-hour movie, and a lot of it is kind of ham-fisted, and that's the part of this movie I didn't enjoy. If this would have been broken up into 2 parts, I think this would have served the movie a lot better. It just would have flowed a lot easier. It's not going to put you to sleep like Fist of the Condor did for me, but I can see how this would lose a lot of people. But if I have to give it a grade, I give this a solid 3 out of 4 stars, save for the actual, the waving plots. Just too much weaving in back and forth, and it could lose some people. But let me know what you think. This is my review of the film SAKRA. Let us know here at Big Gold Belt Media. Find us at biggoldbeltmedia.com. If you disagree with me in the comments, please be sure to let me know. And also follow me on your social medias at Damien G Show across the board, where I cover retro cartoon reviews on the Retro Cartoon Rewatch, where I take cartoons from the 70s to the 2000s. I watch them back in real time. I let you know whether or not they suck. Thank you for everybody here at Big Gold Belt Media. This is Damien G signing off, our review of SAKRA. We'll see you next time.
Big